Welcome to the next in our series on Seamus Heaney. In this video, we're looking at craftsmanship. I should remind you that these are not my thoughts, but the analysis that my father has undertaken of a poet he admires and the perspective that he developed. The poet is, of course, Seamus Heaney, and the analysis is that of David Fawbert, OBE. It's his words that will follow. Poets are a breed apart. Unlike ordinary mortals, such as you and me, their consciousness is constantly tuned into things that give off a poetic charge, and their vocation compels them to pounce on such sudden, involuntary moments before they fade away. Poets are constantly on the qui-vive. Many carry notebooks to record these unpredictable, involuntary instances. Poets are never far away from composition mode, which transforms electrical impulses into verse. Poets are alchemists, and Heaney was one of the tribe. He acknowledged that there were times poems came on in torrents. He said of the squaring sequences in Seeing Things, "I felt as free as a kid skimming stones. The poems had something of the splish, splash, splosh, one after anotherness of stones skittering and frittering across the water." Then, in almost the same breath, he confessed to periods of drought when he wondered where his next title might come from. Poems are unexpected. For Heaney and his colleagues, the catalyst might be something from a book or a photo, a gallery exhibit or a foreign place, a newspaper report or a dictionary, something televised or remembered from church, even a serious metaphysical conversation between the poet and his inner self. There is no question of Heaney living in some ivory tower. Inside the skin of this extraordinary poet lived a modest, ordinary, practical man, coping with the things everyday life threw at him. A wife and children to support, bills to pay, publishing contracts to meet, the need to supplement his poetry royalties or go without, poetry readings, radio programmes, chances to meet his contemporaries. Heaney is a generous spirit, and as a person who found it difficult to say no, he was forever at the beck and call of his own making. Once his global reputation was established, his life developed an almost unstoppable momentum. Increased foreign travel, a constant flood of invitations, prestigious awards in the shape of a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995, and distinguished academic positions he held at Harvard and Oxford universities. How then, we ask ourselves, had Heaney managed to soar head and shoulders above the others in the tribe and, like cream in milk, rise to the top of his profession? Comparing Heaney with top performers in other creative roles offers a few insights into what it took for him to weave his particular magic. Heaney is a cordon bleu cook. He shares much in common with the best chefs. They recognise the finest products. They are endowed with a talent that adds the individual flavours of spices, herbs, and myriad ingredients in just the right amounts at just the right moment. They produce unique signature dishes, capable of delighting and inspiring those who savour the result. Their knowledge is gleaned from experience, experimentation, and hard graft. Their talent is a gift granted only to a very few. Heaney is pursuing a similar goal. He is both wordsmith and master chef. Inspiration is just a start. Spontaneous ideas can only gain from being worked upon. Like the best chefs, Heaney is an agent of change. He transforms poetic charge into mouth-watering dishes. Each will involve a deliberate process of composition and revision that will determine the ultimate structure, vocabulary, verse form, and imagery of each poem. In addition to Heaney's copious word hoard, he has access to a rich list of poetic devices available to all who write. He takes from it just what he needs to add an underlay, or ring a change, or carry an image through, or provide an echo. He wants no more than to turn ordinary language into a culinary feast for the senses, and his blend of ingredients, roughly translated as style, is the mix he favours in each poem to carry his message forward. Just as a chef designs the presentation of a dish, Heaney paints using words. He was excited by artists and by art galleries around the world. Anything can happen in a gallery, that's the joy of it, he once enthused. He identifies countless named examples appropriate to his poetic moment, from Renaissance Giorgione to 20th century Dutch abstract Piet Mondrian, from Bruegel's Flemish landscapes to Goya's nightmare canvases in Madrid's Prado. But it was possibly Heaney's friendship with Irish surrealist painter Colin Middleton that brought him first-hand observation of the techniques, overlays and textures of a creative act exercised within another medium. It awakened the notion that he could outstrip the given by reflecting visual art in word. His magic paintbrush works. Heaney's word canvases generate individual textures and compositional balance. He sets emotional sensations, shapes and colours within the picture's frame, even mimicking cinematic techniques of zoom and pan to add movement and focus. Finally, we can think of Heaney as the orchestrator. In seeking to write poetry that is pleasing to the ear, Heaney has much in common with an orchestral composer. He starts at a slight disadvantage, because scored music brings with it a code of letters, abbreviations and signs placed above or below the notes that indicate the way in which a piece is to be performed. Forte, play loudly; crescendo, play gradually more loudly, and so forth. Orchestrators can leverage notation marks or other instructions, determine the tempo. Rallentando says gradually slow down the phrase, or direct the instrumentalist to emphasize a word or to pause for an instant. Other labels suggest mood, sad or harsh, calm or furious, light or sweet, or slowly dying away. Without expression marks, the piece would be monotonous and boring. There is, of course, no such notation for Heaney. He leaves it to his words, phrasing and punctuation to suggest timbre, modulation and cadence, so that the skilled reader can turn each poem into a linguistic event. Heaney was a meticulous craftsman. He wove strands of assonant vowel sounds into the text, sometimes as many as 14 separate ones within the same poem, either grouping them within specific areas to create internal echoes or reprising them at intervals. He had another trick up his sleeve. He used the alliterative effects of consonants to modify his assonant melodies with pulses or beats or soothings or hissings or frictions. Heaney's intention was simply to use the musicality of language to generate beautifully turned passages. His thought processes and instinctive use of rhythm seem to go hand in hand, whether in phrases of bare simplicity or more complex ideas and emotions. We hope these observations inform and enhance the pleasure from reading the works of Seamus Heaney for you. Thank you for listening. If anything has excited your curiosity, do go to Fawbert.com and learn more.